Wars. Tomorrow's news today.
Because some human beings care about their children, VAERS was established in 1990 as an early warning system to identify negative reactions and side effects of vaccination. Which makes sense, but there are major problems. It is managed by the FDA and the CDC, which explains why the VAERS database requires a class to learn how to find anything. Taking the time to actually file a report is voluntary, and out of fear of losing their jobs or being considered an anti-vaxxer, nobody wants to speak ill of the all-holy vaccine, let alone make an official report. It is estimated that only 1% of vaccine injuries ever get reported to VAERS. So that means when VAERS reports over 44,000 adverse reactions and 90 deaths, one can expect it to be as much as 4.4 million adverse reactions and 9,000 deaths. And these numbers are only from the age 5 to 17 group. Conservative numbers put it at 10%, which is 500,000 children that have been wounded and killed from an unneeded, unwanted, experimental gene therapy shot that we were lied to about every step of the way. Thanks to the Open VAERS project, which is built upon the VAERS data, the public can easily search these reports and see for themselves. People are reporting adverse reactions such as chronic pain, loss of hearing and taste, talking gibberish, and acting out aggressively. And these are the mild cases. There is a tsunami of major brain damage, heart disease, and fatalities. Edward Dowd has analyzed the data and has reported an 84% increase in deaths among ages 25 through 40, which is the same amount of lives lost to the Vietnam War. Toby Rogers estimates that Big Pharma kills twice as many people that died in World War II every single year. The press ignores this because it's not enough. They want your newborn babies as well. Pfizer is pushing to have children as young as 6 months old given a shot that we know is potentially fatal, even though children were never at risk and are still not at risk. The United States has been force injecting infants and children with experimental vaccines for years, and now they want to add the infamous clot shot. Thanks to virtue signaling mothers, some children have already been getting it in the womb, which is resulting in miscarriages, stillbirths, and deaths from breastfeeding on toxic, genetically modified mother's milk. Pfizer is planning on submitting another application for emergency use authorization in early April. That's about 18 million children under 5 who could be sacrificed to the altar of big pharma and political correctness. If Pfizer can achieve permanent liability protection from the FDA, who they control, then they can add the mRNA gene therapy shot to the childhood vaccine schedule, where it will enjoy permanent liability protection under the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. These same crooks are putting a judge on the Supreme Court who openly defends leniency towards crimes that involve child rape. They are coming for your children, and they will not stop. If you still care about the human race and are looking for something you can do right now, you can go to Toby Rogers at Substack and read his urgent call to action for more info. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
The reason I am lied about, the reason I am so demonized is because I'm really identifying who the enemies of humanity are and their project of a global scientific dictatorship, and they believe that they can't change my behavior, but if they attack Alex Jones and lie about Alex Jones enough, it'll create such a taint and a fear no one will talk about or cover or look at the critical issues that I raise. The good news is these evil people have miscalculated, and their attempts to demonize us and shut us down have blown up in their face. But that's now only caused them to double and triple down. And so my fate is bound to your fate, and I am in the process of being destroyed at every level right now. But it's well worth it, because I'll be able to stand in front of my Creator, and I'll be able to stand with my ancestors at the next level and know that I passed the test. And I know that's why you're here as well. You're aware of what's happening. You're very upset and you care, and I salute and I thank you all. It's Saturday, March 26, 2022, and I'm your host, Alex Jones, and I've committed to you to start doing at least 3 special live broadcasts a week so that we can take calls and cover a lot of the news we can't get to on the syndicated radio show that's simulcast on the internet as television as well. And so we are more and more starting to fulfill that plan to get that done. Though the enemy has been trying every device they can to keep me from being on air, we are here together despite their greatest attacks. So I thank you for your prayers, your word of mouth, and of course your financial support at InfoWarsStore.com. But now is the most critical time in the world to support independent, truth-based media. And so I thank you, and I ask you to redouble your efforts now, or so much of what we've built and fought for will be lost. We're still going to win in the end, but InfoWars is a critical flagship or mothership in this fight that really needs to stay in the fight as long as possible, because everything we're doing right now is having the biggest victories ever. But the greater our victories become, the more bloodied and damaged the operation becomes, and that's to be expected in the thick of the battle. So I just intend to keep fighting and blasting truth out in all directions until the lights go out, ladies and gentlemen. And that really is up to you if you know how dire the straits were, not just in the world, but in general. But for InfoWars and for yourself, I know that you would take even greater action, and I salute your action that you have engaged in so far. But everybody should really be counting the cost and knowing how critical the situation is. Okay, let me tell you what we're going to cover here today. First off, coming up in the second hour, we are going to open the phones up commercial-free and take your phone calls. So in about 45 minutes, I will give the number out, and we'll get everybody lined up, and we'll start taking your unscreened calls. My unscreened, that you got a point you want to make, you got a clean line, and that you're ready to talk to us. You want to tell us where you're calling from, that's fine. Or you can tell us you're calling from another planet. I don't care, as long as your phone line is clear and you've got points you want to make. You agree, you disagree, you've got questions, you've got answers, we want to hear from you. The big no-no, the big verboten thing, the forbidden thing is people interfacing with each other unfiltered. Well, this is the original digital soapbox town hall. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. We have ultra-massive announcements by the real head of the New World Order. There are a lot of big, powerful families and people behind him, but he is the chairman of the global corporate board that Howard Beale is led into in the famous movie Network in 1972, 73. In fact, maybe get the Howard Beale boardroom clip ready for me, guys. I'm throwing that at you to play a little bit later. In fact, if you can pull it up now, that'd be great. If you can get it ready in the next 5 minutes as we play clips, I'll get to it. But you have meddled with the tidal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and you will atone. You think you've just disrupted a basic business deal, Mr. Beale? And then he lays out how the New World Order works up until this phase. And to understand what they're telling you in Network is the kind of proletariat understanding of the New World Order and what its supposed goal was. As I've been explaining, the goal is not to create harmony and stop war and a chicken in every pot and people all have stock in a financial system so we don't all kill each other. That's the first few floors of the New World Order. But when you get deeper into the basement, you find out what it's really all about. And it's the opposite of order. It is destruction and collapse and chaos. And on the ashes of that, the transhumanist system. So we have huge, giant developments out of the mouth of the head of BlackRock, or the mouth of Sauron, and that is Larry Fink. announcing the New World Order is dead. The New World Order is just getting started. And we told you this was coming. Now all the collapses you're about to see that they're openly engineering, why, that's because their system failed when the whole time they were planning it and getting it ready for the organized collapse of civilization, the post-industrial world. You will own nothing and you will like it. That's coming up from our social engineer in chief, Larry Fink. And then, of course, we have the massive COVID news coming up. Scientists develop controversial, contagious vaccines that spread from vaccinated to unvaccinated. That is going to be coming up. And really massive, massive, massive news. On the whole war front, Biden refuses to rule out first strike use of nuclear weapons. So Biden refuses to rule out nuclear sneak attack on Russia. Why? If you were really trying to get somebody to get trigger happy and start World War III, that's the kind of stuff you'd put out. Got a lot on Hunter Biden, confirmed that the main investment company with $2+ billion of investment that he was executive of, getting tens of millions of dollars a year for him and his poppy, that they did build bioweapon labs in Ukraine. On record, they have the documents, but it's Russia disinfo, like the laptop belonging to him. Wow, the Russians created thousands of child porn videos of Biden having sex with children and raping women and snorting cocaine and smoking cocaine and having sex with his niece. Wow. Of course, now they admit it's a real laptop, but so what? You know, they just move on from there. And they're now going after Clarence Thomas for January 6th. Why, he and his wife have got to be removed, arrested. He's got to be impeached. Why, she sent a text message to the White House Chief of Staff saying, hey, look into these election fraud claims. You're not even allowed to look into those. What do you think this is, a free country? And then he got all the sex offender defense, her letting out people that were getting child porn by the tens of thousands of images and seeking it out. And she said, well, he's of the same age group. He's 18 and the person he's trying to have sex with is 8, so it's okay. And there's other articles here. Sex offender thanks Mrs. Jackson for 3-month prison sentence. So we've got that as well. There is so much to go through here today. All these articles in the Washington Post, New York Times. My wife is black, my son is biracial, but white supremacy lives inside me. We've got all that as well today, ladies and gentlemen. But first, let's get into the really big news story. Now, we have an archivist, and hopefully they can find this needle in a haystack, but I know all of you have an archive yourselves called your memories. And I don't bring this up to make it about InfoWars or myself. I mean, you can see what they're doing, and it's as clear as the nose on my face or, you know, the ears on your head or the toe on your foot that this is happening. And we knew where this was going because they always said they would do this, and we war-gamed out, you know, how are they going to get away with taking over the world's economy and then crashing it to consolidate power and control, destroy any middle classes, get rid of the Renaissance, and starve and kill at least 7 billion people in their official numbers. Like, how the hell is the UN and the Biological Diversity Assessment System and the World Bank and the IMF and the International Bank of Settlements and the Club of Rome and the Davos Group and the CFR or the Trilateral Commission, and all of them have the official policy of carrying out global government for depopulation? How are they going to build a global system and then implement its policies that cause the collapse and then not go to prison or not get in trouble by the nation states and the populations when they figure out they're the ones that have done all this? And it's simple. They create a cascade of crises that they manage and they control, and right as you figure out they're behind the last crises, They've already launched the next crises, and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to walk this here out for everybody. But there isn't anything other than your relationship with God and realizing you're an eternal being. There isn't anything we cover here more important than this. So I'm just asking everybody to please listen to me very carefully. It's like in Bird Box that came out a few years ago, where nobody knows why everybody's suddenly dying. It's clear it's the cell phones at some frequency being sent out to make everybody kill each other. But the point is that she tells the children, after they've been hiding out in the wilderness for a couple years, now they got to move to a new place. She says, listen to me very carefully, because if you don't listen to exactly what I say, you're going to die. Now that's a movie. I'm actually here telling you, guaranteed, that I'm dead, my children are dead, and you're going to be dead very, very soon if you don't listen to me. So we can sit here and play games all day and play patty cake, or we can get down to absolute brass tacks here. There has been a decision made to cull the human population down to almost zero. That we're trash, that we're mutants, that we're garbage. And you're like, wow, where have I heard of that before? In the first book of the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, going back more than 6,000 years, they've now found the writings on the hieroglyphs of other cultures said the same thing happened in the Middle East, that a giant flood came and knocked out civilization. Now, whether you think that's a fable or a composite of things, that's not the issue here. There is a legend in African cultures and Mesoamerican cultures and ancient Chinese cultures and ancient European cultures and Middle Eastern cultures. Every culture has myths that God destroys the majority of humanity from time to time. And that God destroys certain cities and civilizations and towers of Babel and Sodom and Gomorrah. Plato wrote 2,200 plus years ago, the greatest philosopher ever, and the father of history and economics and everything else, that there was a giant Atlantean base, a continent in the Atlantic Ocean, where the Atlanteans came from. You know, you open it out from the Mediterranean, and out there's the Atlanteans, and they've got a base, and it's got flying ships and a pillar of white light that recharges them, and that they had an engine that gave them unlimited power for these big machines, and it describes automatons, robots. And it blew up, and the sky was dark, and the world became frozen, and the crops wouldn't live. And where have we heard of something like that? Nuclear war, whatever it was. The point is that we know that there is this ethos. We know that there is this myth. We know this is going on in our minds. And so, was it pre-programmed there so that we do it now? Or did it really happen before? Does that really matter? Because now, whether you believe God destroyed almost all life, human life, with a flood, or whether you believe that Plato was telling the truth, and almost everything else he talked about, they've dug up and found. They haven't found Atlantis yet. So they find all over the shores the nuclear glass that only a giant asteroid or hydrogen bomb could create, washing up in the North Atlantic into the Viking kingdoms. And so we are approaching that moment of the end of civilization as we know it, and the cult that runs the planet, that has the secret history, and that says they actually know what happened in our past. I'm not sure they actually know that. They believe that they must become gods. They must become the alpha predator, and then they must remove us to prove they are worthy to transcend into a new Homo sapien siliconus. or the Homo sapien nouveau age. Different names they have for it. And so we're at that point, and I'm here trying to have a discussion about that with everybody so that we're on the level with the globalists, at least at debate level, while they don't even pay attention to us because we don't even study what they study. We don't even know what they know. We're not even involved in that. And you can't even get a seat at the table unless you actually talk to them and cut through their games. Their first game is that doesn't exist. There's no New World Order. There's no chemicals in the water. We're reducing fertility. Nothing bad's happening. There's no world government. You go back to sleep. And most people go, well, I want to be on the trendy group. So if CNN says it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. Everyone at CNN and MSNBC and everyone that goes along with that is cheating themselves. Pretending this isn't going on and lying to yourself about that and pretending you're part of the establishment, you're cheating yourself and your children and everyone out of that. You're not going to join the New World Order and go along with their plan and then get away with what they're planning. We don't want to destroy civilization. We want to go off-world. We want to go interdimensional. We want to go next level. We're almost there, and it's damn clear we've almost gotten there before. But the previous civilizations did not interface with the general human population and kept us separate and had their reservations of technology, their globalist city-states I'll get to in a moment. And then somebody decided to externalize that knowledge planetary-wide to all the groups of people. Now, were those space bases of our ancestors that came here to colonize, decided we had it too good with the advanced technology, so let us go wild again and try to fix it? That's what the top globalist models are. We are the aliens, folks. You figure that out yet? So, that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. And you're going to have to decide whether you want to act like an adult and have a real debate about this, or whether you want to be controlled by emotion and all these side stories and all this ridiculous garbage and playing along with the system to get power within this hierarchical New World Order that is a joke and a fraud and a artificial device. It's a prosthesis that actually handicaps us and keeps us from becoming who we really are. I liken the New World Order to a blow-up doll that you're married to and you have sex with. It's a plastic blow-up doll. It's not a real person. It doesn't have ancestors. It doesn't have a womb. It doesn't have goals. It doesn't have destinies. It has nothing. But you sit there and pretend that you've got a wife that's a blow-up doll. That's being a president or a New World Order puppet and oppressing people, is you're pretending you're a human. You're pretending you're a leader. You're pretending you're an aristocrat. You're pretending you're empowering people when you're using the laws of nature and things you know to oppress people and keep them down. You have taken yourself down as well. And that's called hell. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. When we're in the heavens. We're not going to heaven, we're in the heavens. And the Bible explains it. There's the second heaven, and there's the third heaven. And then there's God. The levels, the dimensions that we can't even understand until we experience this dimension and conquer it and go to the next level. Everything is about the degrees in the universe. And so that's why they're desperate to shut us down. That's why they're desperate to silence us, because we understand their program, their operations. So, a little bit of sinus infection, excuse me. Let me lay out the huge development that is so big, and then we'll get into all the other big topics and open the phones up and take your phone calls. Larry Fink does not run the New World Order. He's not the final decision maker. He didn't create the system. He's not one of the most powerful families, but he is the guy that runs the hotel. He's like the concierge. He's the manager. Other people own the hotel. Other people set it up the way they want, but he's the manager. He's like the maitre d' in a restaurant. And Larry Fink, with tens of trillions under management and pioneered fractional reserve system expanding into the derivatives and selling mortgages over and over again. I mean, he makes Bernie Madoff look like a amateur. Because in the 80s, he was given the globalist authorization by the CIA and others, this is all on record, to create fraudulent transactions in the quadrillions. So he's a criminal. And he funds all the social engineering and the transgender and the Black Lives Matter, and he says we want your credit card to control where you go and what you do, and he's all on record saying this. And he's pushing the war and happening right now in Europe and Ukraine, and he's pushing open borders. And I mean, you go out and look at him, he's at the Davos group saying we want to put chips in your brain and you shouldn't have any freedom. He's a monster. And he came out in a letter to his shareholders on Friday, and he told his shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, that globalization is dead. Now, globalization is one thing, globalists are another. And then being for a global system is completely different from that. And people always get confused. But I will define these and break these down. But what does it mean in this letter right here to our shareholders, BlackRock.com? What does this statement say, and what does this statement mean for everybody? And we're going to lay that out right now. Number one, it's another lie. Globalization's not dead. Globalism's not dead. And people's desire to be international citizens and have peace is not dead. Three separate things. They masquerade globalist systems as a way to have peace and open free societies and a liberal world order, as Biden said a week ago, for a new world order. But behind the scenes, they're financing all the major different groups fighting with each other. They're financing the Nazis in Ukraine. They're financing the radical Islamists. They're financing all the different leftist groups. They admit they're doing this and trying to overthrow countries and trying to overthrow elected governments they don't like. So they're not involved in democratization. They're involved in wars and overthrowing states while wrapping themselves in a rainbow flag. And so when Larry Fink comes out, and I've got his quotes right here, and he says, oh, our system's dead, it's all over because of extremists, and now things are going to collapse and be horrible. Their own people, though, at Davos, where he's a top member, admit they're collapsing things to, quote, get us off carbon and depopulate and transition to the Agenda 2030 of a 90% depopulation. But that's all in the sophisticated data. Out front, oh my gosh, globalism and the New World Order failed. The mean Russians, they're the reason oil prices are high and that food's high. Not us printing all this money and not all the derivatives Larry Fink, created. No, 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 no. The problem is that, and it's because people didn't follow globalism. That's why we're going to not give you electricity, and that's why your gas is going to explode, while they're behind all the policies to do it. And it's not like I'm just saying this now to follow what's currently happening. I made the film Endgame 15 years ago. I have done thousands of broadcasts. I've had hundreds of guests on. I've taken thousands of calls on this topic and shown you the articles and the videos and the books and the white papers and the CIA documents and the British Ministry of Defense documents and the Rockefeller documents, and all of them ad nauseum, bragging how they would go in this stage. Take over the Western nation states, tell people we're going to create an IMF and World Bank and a global peace force to empower Africa, Latin America, Asia, and the Middle East, and reform the East, Russia. And then they go in, start a bunch of wars, destabilize all the countries, create a bunch of derivatives, get all the different nations in debt, pay the third world countries to literally starve people and depopulate and create massive debt and poverty, create all these policies to get Russia to get into a war in Ukraine, break down borders, create fentanyl and all these drugs, ship them in, create the poison Hollywood culture, break down the family, do everything they can And they say in all their documents, and it's in my film Endgame, 15 years ago, 2007. It's free online. They take it down everywhere, but it's still all over the place. Go watch it, 2.5 hours long. We show the quotes where they go, we're going to use the nation states to go in and fund corporations to take over the third world. Then we're going to collapse the third world and flood what's left of the first world with the third world and guilt Christians with the white Christian ethos to accept the third world populations who will control with welfare, who will then fully collapse the first world, then we'll depopulate everybody. And they said then, once globalism and globalist systems collapse everything, we will blame it on nation states, and we will blame it on populism, and we will blame it on the groups that didn't go along with it because they know we'll figure this out and start fighting back. And then what we'll be left with is 10 city-states that will be these big mega cities like Hunger Games with all the high tech and all the medicine and everything that everybody else doesn't have electricity. Everybody else are feudal serfs. Everybody else is totally controlled, and that's who survived. And they don't want but about 10% left, maximum. That's on the high end. Other graphs are 5%. So you have 5 to 10% left alive in this big cataclysm that all the leftists tell you, soon we'll all be dead 2030. Everything's going to collapse. We'll be dead. The climate change, the viruses will come out of the jungle. No, they're making the viruses in the labs. And Beto O'Rourke and the UN and AOC will all be dead by 2030. I've been let in on the briefings, they said. Again, Captain Kirk lands from his little space trip, not in the movies, but in the real world. He says, I'm so sad the cataclysm's about to hit and we'll all be dead. We'll all be dead. It's for the earth, though. It's for the best. They're like, oh, sir, please. Well, I just was let into the meeting. I mean, we've got to kill everybody. Oh. So, I've told you hundreds of times, and somebody's going to find the clip. You know it's going to happen. Hundreds of times that then they're going to say, oh, the nation states and populism and racism, it held up globalism and the promise of universal basic income and the promise of a chicken in every pot and everything else. And so, now we've got to stop the nationalists and the patriots because the good globalists, the good WEF, Economic Forum, they have got a plan, and it was just the nation states that caused it. But thank God, certain cities were able to have their power. Certain cities were able to stay up, like the Texas Triangle, Dallas to Houston to Austin, and everybody else outside of that, sorry, you're on your own now. So the collapse on our borders is just the beginning of this. This is the organized, controlled collapse, and they collapsed the blue cities first, and leftist control cities, so they get rid of the police and everybody and then bring in their controllers, and then they're going to make those cities completely safe, but you'll be scanned every 50 yards you walk and won't be allowed into most areas. There'll be combat robots on every street corner. This is their admitted plan. They give speeches, they write books, it's all planned out. And now they've begun the world collapse. They're accelerating the world collapse after 2 years of lockdown and control around the world. As the infrastructure for the first world's cut off, they starve to death. The average leftist doesn't care. They're still getting, Uber Eats or whatever delivered to them. And then now Larry Fink's like, oh, globalism's dead. Oh, the nationalists and the patriots and the right-wingers we couldn't censor, they caused it to fail. You're all going to starve to death now. And I told you they would do exactly that. And now they are, because he thinks you're stupid. But they plan to push their COVID power grab longer. They planned to get a lot of things. They're accelerating their program because they're in trouble. They could be defeated, and that's why they're scared about this show and so freaked out. Because if this gets out, which it is getting out, it's over for them. But this is an exact plan on record by them. Here, let's hear from Larry Fink. BlackRock's Larry Fink, who oversees 10 trillion, says Russia-Ukraine war is ending globalization. From his letter, the Russia invasion of Ukraine has put an end to globalization we have experienced over the last 3 decades, the giant debt, the raping of the third world, all of it. Fink said in a letter to his shareholders, it has left many communities and people feeling isolated and looking inward. Oh, because you did it. You'll own nothing and have nothing and be angry. I believe this has exacerbated the polarization and extremist behavior we are seeing across society today. They're going to have an angrier world, and out of that will be the collapse of the old system and the new system of Build Back Better. You see, says Klaus Schwab, his second command. Go read the letter for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot more in there, and I'm going to get to that more later on the Sunday show tomorrow because I got a lot to hit here. But that's what they're doing. And they're creating an ethos of the end of the world, an ethos of most of us won't be here. And they're telling Leonardo DiCaprio and William Shatner and all of them that this calamity's coming. And imagine the paradox of us telling everybody the reverse engineered part, and then the William Shatners and the Leonardo DiCaprios, they've not been let in on all of this. They're only let in on part of it and be told, you'll be safe. Once this all goes down, just go along with us. But can you imagine then they hear this show and they go, oh my God, and then they learn the rest of the story, they start asking questions. And do you have any idea how much that upsets the globalists? That's why this show's so critical, because we have the big billionaires listening. We have the movie stars listening. You can say, well, I don't care about them. Well, they have a lot of influence. And if they think destroying our open, free society is going to make them safe, if they think doing this is going to secure them some future, like a Moonraker, Ian Fleming novel, think again. I've done the numbers. The globalists don't want the smartest and the best looking and the most powerful around in their alpha system. They plan to set this trap and then take out the so-called elites as well. And you'd best figure that out and use your head and understand that they believe they're about to merge the machines, and there will only be one entity allowed to survive that becomes this new god, and no one else will be allowed to, and everyone else will be killed. Have you seen 2001 Space Odyssey? Have you read his book, 2001? Do you understand that's their Bible? Everybody else dies. One man becomes the star child. One man goes to the next level. One man, one person lives. They're not going to kill 80% or 90%. They're going to kill everybody. So let's play some clips of this and some of these monsters, and we'll go to break, and we'll come back and get to the rest of the news that ties into this. But they have orchestrated the collapse. They have consolidated the power and the money. They have already destroyed the supply chain for the middle class and small businesses. They're already starving the third world to death. And now they're telling you, oh, we failed. Our new world order of peace failed. Oh. Now everything's going to fall apart. It's all your fault. It's all the racist white people. Who is the only group of wealthy, quasi-wealthy, independent Westerners, middle class. They just call that white, even though it's a diverse group of people, because they're afraid that intelligentsia might wake up and go, whoa, we're about to throw out the real Renaissance, real liberal order that created all the medicine and science and freedom that got taken over by eugenicists and proto-Nazis. Whoa, we better stop this. But it's too fun to be a white liberal and be part of the liberal order, and we're setting up world government and getting rid of masculinity to stop a nuclear war, and we're all trendy, and yeah, we're the future, and you just don't understand. We go to art museums, and and you're not even let in on the real white papers that are public, but you're too lazy to read them. State Department Memorandum 200 and others, where they plan to kill you as soon as they can, you dumbass. You think these hyper-competitive, super alpha male people respect you while you pansy around all day with your fake money in your fake bank account? The first thing they're going to do, once they've gotten rid of due process in the system, is take you out and shoot you in the back of the head. They do not respect you one bit. And I'm not saying this like I'm proud of myself or any of that. I could snap my fingers and be at the top of the New World Order. Right up there with the top. I could snap my fingers, because I know how it all works. I reverse engineered it. I see how ridiculous it is, and I have disdain for the public going along with it. But I don't get off on it, want to feed on the public like these globalists do, and I cannot join them because of spiritual issues, because I know God doesn't like what's happening. But there is not even a debate here about what's going on. Do you understand that? You let this eugenics, environmental death cult run your life, you will be destroyed. And by the way, it's an environmental death cult at the next to the top level. It's peaceniks that want world government to stop war down here, and a coalition of perverts and weirdos. Coalition of perverts, weirdos, dumbed-down people, well-meaning morons and schmucks. Globalist, death cult, environmentalist, death cult, kill everybody to save the earth, really alpha people that want to be in charge and run everything and want more resources for themselves. And at the very top, people trying to extract the incredible knowledge of the human species in a breakaway civilization to become a godlike creature in this huge expansionist program of these Satanists or Luciferians. And so that is their operation. That is their plan. And you can watch Netflix and you can sit around with your thumb up your rear end, or you can understand that understanding this will help you transcend what's happening. Understanding this system and that it's purely predatory and turning you into a domesticated animal in an exercise, in a ritual of power, and that the ritual of you awakening to this and the ritual of you reaching out to God like a tree's limbs towards the sun and saying, give me salvation, give me discernment, give me next level understanding. God doesn't rape you like Satanists. God doesn't rape your soul and psyche. You have to open up to God. You have to spread your limbs out to the world. Or to use the analogy, because in the Bible, Christ is the man, we are the bride, you got to spread your legs. God doesn't rape the soul and the mind. You have to want it. And that's the decision. And that's what you're going to have to get through your head. This is Congress with the next level. This is infinity you're about to interface with. This is beyond sexual. But the greatest thing you can call it is that, because out of us will metamorphosis the next Genesis, an incredible empowerment. You understand that? You must spread your limbs to the sun, which is the archetype of God. You must decide you want to be in Congress with God, interfacing with God. And I know for a lot of you, that's shameful because that makes you look at things you've done and bad. God made you. God doesn't care. What God wants is you to want to be good and to try to go to the next level. Obviously, Bill Gates and Larry Fink have not been doing that. So, they're very ashamed of themselves, actually. Trying to hurry up and get it done and get rid of everybody. And I assure you, if there was Larry Fink and Bill Gates left in a room together, they would kill each other because they only want one. You understand that this is not going to end until they killed everybody. But that's how this evil system does, is it gets us to kill ourselves because it metaphysically has to get us to do it. It's not allowed to destroy us. God won't let them. It's got to get us through our free will to destroy ourselves. And so now the next phase is here. The global collapse is here. The global depression's here. And he's saying globalism's failed because it was designed to collapse civilization. It's not failed, it's done its job. But now the opposition to it, it's going to say is the reason it's failing, and going to say that its promise is milk and honey and all this happiness and security, when everything it does is to destroy our security. That makes sense? So this is very bone-chilling. I was already off air yesterday, and I got home last night and I saw his letter, and we knew it was coming. We said it was coming. And when they tell you, oh, the liberal order failed. Oh, the world's about to get so bad. It's not our fault. That they're dropping the hammer. So if you had any doubts, and if I had any doubts that we were going over the edge of a cliff, here we are. And we've got this learned helplessness. We've had freedom and liberty so long that we cannot even believe that this is happening to us now, because they've had to maneuver their people into position. They've had to make us corrupt, dumb down. They've had to get us off the land. They've had to domesticate us. They've had to position us and confuse us to the point now that they think they can carry out this operation. But they're not going to get away with it. And they know that. So now they're going ahead with the operation because it's all they can hope to stop us, and it's not going well. And that's the news you need to know. They are scared. They are freaked out. And they are badly damaged. We have to press the attack as hard as we can. Because if we are cowardly in this test, I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that you will be cut off from the Creator. And this is not a simulation, but it is not even 1/trillionth of what you're going to see at the next level. This is real. This is a third dimensional operation with real energy, real matter. but it is a simulation in that it is out of the mind of God. And then if we can handle this level, it just goes up from there. And that's just a human term. It's more intense, more powerful than you can possibly imagine. And these globalists know that, and they are not attracted to it, and they're scared of it, but they want to try to get pieces of it and kind of build their own thing. They're like, whoa, we don't want to like merge with this. We don't want to be with this that made us. We want to do our own thing, which is hurt our children, dumb us down, poison us, vandalize our species and other species, and do horrible, ugly things. These aren't good people. They're not jacked into good stuff. And you should be running away from them. That's why Christ said, get behind me, Satan. You don't fight with Satan. You don't get in a debate with Satan. You build new systems and race away from Satan towards God's plan. You expand, you innovate, you create. And it's just, yeah, what you gonna do about that, Satan? Because we're just creating the new universe. We're creating, we're loving, we're building, we have children, we love God. We commune. That's why he tries to take away every ritual we've got, men and women, and our children, and our dinner tables, and our goodness, and going outside, and exercising, and being friends. Everything he finances is, don't work out, it's white supremacist. Don't go out and see a sunset, it's white supremacist. Mothers are bad, fathers are bad, white people are bad, because anything that could drag us out of the abyss, this guy doesn't like. You gonna let him win? You gonna let that predator, that monster, have you and your children's destiny? So here's Laura Ingraham talking about it on Friday. Pretty important clip. And then we're gonna play some other clips back to back. But here is, could the war in Ukraine be the end of globalism? No, it's the trigger point of the collapse that they're gonna blame their whole plan on, so they can be the saviors and blame their opposition for what they've engineered. Here it is.
I told you before about the great reset of capitalism that's being pushed by the elites at the World Economic Forum. Now, among the most ardent resetters is BlackRock CEO Larry Fink. But in his annual shareholder letter today, Fink issued a warning to his Davos buddies, saying the Russian invasion of Ukraine has put an end to the globalization we've experienced over the last 3 decades. Companies and governments will also be looking more broadly at their dependencies on other nations. Joining me now is Victor Davis Hanson, Hoover Institution Senior Fellow. Well, Victor, if there's a bright light and a devastating, tragic, ongoing nightmare in Ukraine, it might be that people are generally beginning to wake up with the idea that it's time to decouple from these despotic regimes.
Yeah, I think people understood from the League of Nations failure in the 30s that political globalism never worked. I mean, the United Nations condemned
at a higher level with the globalists. They were just getting the billionaires together, the little tech guys that the CIA In-Q-Tel gave the ideas to and funded so they could have their little tech front people. They were just being let in on, oh, by the way, you got recruited when you were 15 or 20 to be part of this because you had the highest scores. You thought you were building a big utopia where we all just sit around and give each other blowjobs all day? Guess what? That's not how this works. We're going to kill everybody now. And we're going to tell them they're obsolete. And we're going to tell them that they better just accept us salting their food with nanotech. And so I've been here for 15 years, specifically telling you that when they tell you that globalism, the New World Order's failed, is when they're going to overdrive and collapse everything so they don't get the blame. And blame nationalists and populists. And, oh, you didn't roll over. Sorry, there's no electricity, when they're the ones behind the policies. And they have these kept lawyers and Interpol and the FBI and the Justice Department that don't even know what planet they're on and actually believe MSNBC propaganda and think they'll save the world if they could just arrest Trump and Roger Stone. See, Trump was never read in on the New World Order. He was his own billionaire with casinos and, selling real estate. They see him as cheap trash, and his ties and his gold-plated toilets. And I saw Trump like that too, but the difference is he wasn't like, why are we going to throw it all away? Why don't we let people play? They're like, no, Mr. Trump, we're not going to let them play. We're going to poison the hell out of them and then kill them. You got that? So go take a dump on your gold toilet. So that's his big crime. He just doesn't want you starving in the streets. He doesn't want to kill you. He's like, why? I like the guy, the bellhop. I give him $200. Why am I going to kill him? What do you do? Well, you're not a real leader, Mr. Trump. You don't want to kill all these useless feeders? I mean, what do they do, Mr. Trump? They go to UFC matches and they raise kids and they... Exactly, Mr. Trump. They're obsolete. So stop being a wimp. Let's kill them. So, we've been live here for 59 minutes, and you're getting the real scoop. I want to go to break here soon and come back and take calls. But, I got to one article. Every one of these is just as important. They're all, this represents, I don't know, since yesterday when I got out the air, about 10 hours of research right here. But, I just want you to understand what we're dealing with here. Because let me tell you something. Oh, look at Bill Gates right here. Huh? The climate change alarmist has a beachfront property? He's renovating the $43 million bachelor pad on the beach. That's the size of a grocery store or shopping mall. Look at it. But you see, it's actually the size of 3 grocery stores. But it's going to be flooded by 2017. Oh, now it's 2025, it'll be flooded. No, he intends to keep on going living. The world's not ending for him. It's just ending for you see. Put a little clip of this monkey. Here's a monkey they've been testing drugs on, accelerating its aging with spike proteins. Thought I'd show you some footage of what they do after they've given a monkey 10 shots of the Pfizer shot. What the accelerated aging does to a monkey that's only 2 years old. The monkey's now the equivalent of a 200-year-old monkey in monkey years. And that's you and that's me. That's all the smart trendies and everybody. That's what spike protein does when it cuts your double helix, where you can't repair your DNA anymore and you can't show, you get rapid aging. And now they want to give it to the children. Of course they do. It's a special little prize. These are very nice people. I think we should bind our will to them for eternity, and that we should join Larry Fink and Bill Gates so we can ride around in limos and act powerful. The few of us that sell out, yeah. So we can have children by the time they're 15 years old looking and acting like this. Spike proteins destroyed everything. Its brain, its teeth, its body. But it still had that genetic youth. Its body's still fighting back. But no, you'll never make it past the spike protein. Liberal. You see, it's not enough to just nuke us and kill us all. They're going to watch us slowly mutate and die. So liberal. Let's play a couple more clips here. Here is Yuval Noah, the head futurist for Klaus Schwab, explaining total biometric control. Clip 17.
And COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. If we want to stop this epidemic, we need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin. What we have seen so far is corporations and governments collecting data about where we go, who we meet, what movies we watch. The next phase is the surveillance going under our skin. We now see mass surveillance systems established even in democratic countries, which previously rejected them. And we also see a change in the nature of surveillance. Previously, surveillance was mainly above the skin. Now it's going under the skin. Governments want to know not just where we go or who we meet. Above all, they want to know what is happening under our skin. What's our body temperature? What's our blood pressure? What is our medical condition? Now humans are developing even bigger powers than ever before. We are really acquiring divine powers of creation and destruction. We are really upgrading humans into gods. We are acquiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. I know that in recent years, we saw populist politicians undermining deliberately the trust that people have in important institutions like universities, like respectable media outlets. These populist politicians told people that, say, scientists are this small elite,
So he just said, your free will's over, we're scientifically taking you over. And now he says, we must stop them and censor them. They say we want to take over. See who they are, folks? The days of you controlling your own body is over. Now here's Trudeau talking about how the war is a great opportunity to cut the carbon off, even though they could put up 10 billion frickin' windmills that wouldn't get the power. It takes more carbon to make a windmill than it ever gives you in power. Look it up. Electric cars get their power from carbon. It's all a fraud. It's an excuse to, hey, do this, so we go along with the free will, then we slowly starve. And they consolidate power and laugh while they do it, saying the days of your free will are over. And next, you can look him up, we need to censor people claiming there's a scientific group to take control. We only want to force inject you. Your freedom is over, but people that say the freedom is over, arrest them. I am liberal, and I am from Israel. You are Nazi if you don't do what I say. Klaus Schwab is good Nazi, good Nazi, good Nazi, Klaus Schwab. Here's Trudeau.
These are conversations that we've had over the past couple of days here with leaders, but that we also had a couple of weeks ago when I was here. The contrast between the need to ensure that Europe's dependence on Russian oil and gas ceases, that Russia is punished with crippling sanctions, where at the same time we're able to pivot more quickly towards renewables. And in the medium term and in the long term, that is something Canada continues to be committed to, but we recognize that replacing Russian oil and gas in the short term is going to be important. Canada can play perhaps a modest role in that, but our commitment to reaching net neutrality by 2050, to hitting our climate commitments by 2030 remains as firm as ever, and indeed, the partnerships we're looking at building with the European Union on issues of hydrogen, on issues touching renewables, are very promising in terms of getting the world not just off Russian oil and gas, but decarbonizing our energy economy entirely.
You know that he helped with Biden kill the Keystone Pipeline that was completed, that would create millions of jobs for the U.S. and Canada over the next decade and lower gas prices up to 30%. That $15 billion pipeline to build has now been shut down after it's completed. Never used, never pumped 1 gallon of crude oil or gas or gasoline through it. Totally shut down. High-tech system that can send anything down that you want. You can send down big groups, crude oil, gasoline, natural gas. It's very sophisticated. Just shut down. But, they ship it by train to their west coast, to Vancouver, where it shipped, where? China. Oh, China and India are going to get all Russia's fertilizer. They're going to get all of Russia's oil and gas now, right when all the pipelines to them were completed. All magically happened. And now this helps India, China, and Russia, and hurts us. I say have a free-for-all and just have cheap energy, but that's the reality. See, but I'm a weirdo, you know. I actually look at what really goes on. Oh, you're not for war with Russia? You're a Russian agent. Oh, now you're saying Russia stands to gain from this? Well, what side do you want? I'm on the side of reality, folks. Not all these ridiculous terms and names and groups and the rest of it. We have anti-freedom people working with dictators to consolidate power. Global corporate leaders and world leaders and dictators screwing everybody over. And what you see on the surface is not actually what's going on. I got one more of these clips I want to play. This is clip 13. Pfizer's CEO admits that mRNA tech is new, uncharted territory. So wait, he goes, because they could never get mRNA approved. It caused liver failure in almost everybody they did it with different mRNA treatments. For 20 years, they couldn't get it approved. That's why the inventor of it, Dr. Malone's, is so dangerous. And then now to cover his ass, he's like, yes, they came to me and said we have this plan, meaning Bill Gates and the NIH and the rest of them. And I was very skeptical, but they said it worked, so I did it. He has agreements with our governments, secret agreements that have come out, that they basically own the government, they're liability protected, and that when they get in trouble for killing everybody, the government goes bankrupt and pays everything to them. That's a legal agreement. Well, your agreement isn't worth the ink it's written on. You can't just codify fraud and murder in a contract, and just because our corrupt leaders signed it, say it's legitimate. But now it's in the SPARS 2025-2028 document that set 2020, 2023 as a war game, that it comes out that it killed people, and the vaccine wasn't a vaccine, hurt people. And that accelerates the collapse of society and the bankruptcy of the governments, but the governments then pay everything into big pharma, which then has all the money and forms medical biosecurity states or smart grid cities with Google, Apple, and others. See how it works? So now he's like, I did not know. They just came to me and said, you will do this. We had not tested it. We did not know, so we tested on you. Meanwhile, he's trying to get it authorized into newborn babies right now. So then he's like, I did not know. The government of them, Trump told me to. Trump, he told me to do it. I know nothing about it. And I told you that was coming. The SPARS war game has tweets that they came out on the same days, just different years. But you overlay 2025, 2028 with 2020, 2023. It's the same, even the date. And it's the same tweets. SPARS and COVID-19, they just flip the names. And it's all acronyms. And it's all there. And they have just a code decoder computer, and they get their battle orders. Battle orders, it's like, battle order. It's all battle ordered and all then drilled in Event 201 right before they launched it. We have the former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency and the former National Security Advisor who dealt with similar battle plans that our people have. That like, oh, it's just a drill we did. You code it, battle plan right there. And the whole battle plan of how to lay out the tweets and how to respond and the names and how to do it, and later go, oh my God, Trump did it. Oh, no, blah, 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 come Dracula. So here he is just getting you all ready for it, as we told you he would. Thinks he's so much smarter than you. Here he is.
mRNA was the technology that we had less experience, only 2 years working on this. And actually, mRNA was a technology that never delivered a single product until that day. Not vaccine, not any other medicine. So it was very counterintuitive, and I was surprised when they suggested to me that this is the way to go. And I questioned it, and I asked them to justify, how can you say something like that? But they came and they were very, very convinced that this is the right way to go. They felt that the 2 years of work on mRNA since 2018, together with BioNTech, to develop a flu vaccine, made them believe that the technology is mature and we are at the cusp of delivering a product. So they convinced me.
All right, we're going to go to break. We're going to come back. I'm going to give the number out, and I'm going to play you the chief of neuroethics at Georgetown telling you what's really going on to his PhD students. And this just came out. And they love to thinly veil it and like tell you, because they need you to subconsciously know what's happening so you're a party to it, metaphysically, so then you're guilty as well. It's all about free will and tricking you to use your free will to go along with this. That's coming up. But first, we're going to play a couple of these special reports back to back. The oligarchs' dementia minions will destroy the world, and the Nazification of the West back to back. We're going to air a great John Bound and great Greg Reese report. And then I'm going to come back and take your calls. Then we have a special guest joining us. The toll-free number is 877-789-2539. 877-789-2539. 877-789-ALEX. 877-789-2539. And let me do this. I did a free-for-all Friday. Let's have first-time callers today, please, so people can get on. I really want to hear from all of you. 877-789-2539. But I think commercial-free is pretty strong. We've been going here for an hour and 13 minutes. Great job of the crew. Kicked it off with a powerful Greg Reese report. Here's a couple more. And then we will be right back to give people free will. If the enemy wants to trick you, keep you in the dark, I am literally here, ladies and gentlemen, jacked directly into the source. Just so are you, by the way. And I want you to get jacked in with me. Let's just go. It's unlimited. Believe me. It's unlimited. You can do it all together, but you've got to stop these predators. You got to make it past these people first. And then things get really wild. Let's just say the universe is not boring at all, okay? I want to see you there, but you gotta wake up. You gotta wake up. You gotta wake other people up. You gotta care. You gotta put skin in the game. Here's the reports. We'll be right back. Every day, there's like 2-3 minute long times when nothing Pelosi says makes sense.
And to this day, my husband, Paul, who was born and raised in San Francisco, I was born and raised in Baltimore. To this day, he likes to dine at 8, and I like to eat at 5:30. Like a peasant.
Like a peasant.
With their continuation of genocide with the Uyghurs in Xinjiang province there, with their violation of the cultural, linguistic, religious priority of Tibet, with their suppression of democracy in Hong Kong. But we have to work together on climate. Climate is an overriding issue.
Now, that astounds me. It's typical Democrat, though. Forget this genocide, forget that genocide, forget the loss of life over here. It's all about climate change.
Yeah, well, Pelosi is almost as incoherent as Biden, really.
Sir, deterrence didn't work. What makes you think Vladimir Putin will alter course based on the action you've taken today?
Let's get something straight. You remember, if you covered me from the very beginning, I did not say that, in fact, the sanctions would deter him. Sanctions never deter. You keep talking about that. Sanctions never deter. The maintenance of sanctions.
Sanctions don't deter. Well, listen to what was said multiple times by people who work for Biden Incorporated.
Sanctions are not an end to themselves. They serve a higher purpose. And that purpose is to deter and prevent. They're meant to prevent and deter a large-scale invasion of Ukraine that could involve the seizure of major cities, including Kyiv.
The purpose of the sanctions has always been and continues to be deterrence.
The president believes that sanctions are intended to deter, and in order for them to work to deter, they have to be set up in a way where if Putin moves, then the costs are imposed.
This is a person clearly with serious dementia on TV. We're all being biologically and chemically tested on. We're being tested on with nanotech. What do you think COVID-19 is? What do you think the spike protein is? And it's just outrageous. We're being assaulted. So when that criminal group is telling us the Russians are bad and the Russians are evil and the Russians have to be destroyed, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Doesn't mean you think the Russians are perfect or agree with them invading their neighbor. It just means you're like, okay, but the criminals want to start a larger war, and they were running biolabs there, and then lying to us and saying they aren't, even though it's in thousands of news articles previously, the U.S. government bragging about the labs.
Does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian troops, Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's freaking crazy town. And men can be women and women can be men, and pedophilia is all over the news is a good thing now. I mean, these people are out of control, and we are letting them do this.
Ellie, let's turn to the child pornography defendant line here. Ted Cruz said that he saw in Judge Jackson an activism and advocacy as it concerns sexual predators, sexual offenders. Is he trying to argue that she is pro-child porn defendant? Like what? I don't know what that line of questioning was about specifically. Would you pick up?
In every federal criminal case, the judge has to calculate the sentencing guidelines. It's a big, thick book. You have to run the numbers, and then it tells you, here's the recommended sentencing range. It's not mandatory, but the judge has to consult it. Okay. However, reality is, across the country, there's a broad consensus, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, that those numbers, not unanimous, but that those numbers tend to be too high in possessory child pornography cases. And if you look at the numbers, in nearly 59% of all cases, judges across the country sentence below that recommended range. And we saw how Judge Jackson, in some but not all cases, did that. And she, I think her answer was right on point. She said, my job in every case is to consider the factors that Congress, you all, have told me to consider, and then all the facts of the case, and to give a just sentence.
Yeah. It would be embarrassing if they were the principal of a school and we're having to give a commencement speech or talk about the commencements that were happening and unable to speak. But no, they are in control of the most powerful country and most powerful monetary and most powerful weapon system in the world.
Zelensky recently described Putin's denazification of Ukraine as laughable, and the brainwashed flock of the mainstream media certainly must agree. They have been told that Nazis wave the American flag and vote Republican, and the brainwashed flock always believe what they are told. But those of us still cleaving to our sanity remember that Nazis were members of Hitler's National Socialist Party from the 1930s and 40s. And not only were there thousands of Nazis in Western Ukraine back then, it is still a big part of their national pride. Nazi war criminal Stepan Bandera is a national hero, and there are actual Nazi organizations still thriving in Ukraine, including the Azov Regiment, which is now a part of Ukraine's armed forces. The Nazification of Ukraine is well documented and easily verified, as is the Nazification of America. During the 1930s, there were many notable Americans who supported the Nazis, such as Prescott Bush, Henry Ford, and Fred Koch. Banks such as J.P. Morgan and Chase Manhattan, companies such as General Motors, Standard Oil, Shell, and IBM. Major General Smedley Butler of the U.S. Marines was asked by these powerful entities to help them install National Socialism in the United States.
I appeared before the Congressional Committee, the highest representation of the American people, under subpoena to tell what I knew of activities which I believe might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship. I was supposed to lead an organization of 500,000 men, which would be able to take over the functions of government.
And when that plan failed, war broke out in Europe with the support of the banks and these American corporate entities. After World War II, only about a dozen were brought to justice at the Nuremberg trials. The Catholic Church and the Vatican helped thousands of Nazis evade capture via the rat lines, which brought them mostly to South America, where they built an entire town in Argentina. In Operation Paperclip, the United States secretly absorbed thousands of Nazis into the U.S. government, where they led the NASA space program and helped pioneer the military-industrial complex as well as Big Pharma. Many believe that being a Nazi is synonymous with being anti-Jewish, which may have been true in 1930s Germany, but it's complicated. Many high-ranking Nazis themselves, including Adolf Hitler, were Ashkenazi Jews, who can be traced back to the notorious Khazars, who mysteriously mass-converted to Judaism about 1,300 years ago in the region now known as Ukraine. Ashkenazi Jews ran the political Zionist movement in Germany, and for several years, the Zionists were the only political party allowed to operate inside Germany by the Nazis. Both the Zionists and the Nazis wanted their own ethnically pure state. And for years before their final solution, the Nazis helped the Zionists in their efforts to establish the State of Israel within Palestine. It was far more complicated than mere racial hatred. Nazism can best be described as fascism, and fascism is godlessness. The word Nazi is a made-up slur, but the word fascist can be clearly defined. It stems from the Latin word fasces, which is a bundle of sticks banded together to form a deadly weapon, an old-school meme that represents the deadly power of an organized mob, a gang. When men lack a personal relationship with God, they inevitably band together out of fear. Submitting to the strong man for a small taste of dominance, they become just another beast in the jungle. And today, we can clearly see this fascist mentality in all of these godless groups. The woke, the Satanists, the transhumanists, and the genocidal mass murderers of the Great Reset are all merging together into one giant fasces. Godless men and women banded together out of fear. Fascists serving the strong man. Spiritually speaking, these are the weakest among us. And so far, we are allowing them to destroy everything. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Powerful pieces by John Bound and Greg Reese. Find both their sections at band.video. That's just some of the important work your support of the broadcast is doing. I want to go to these loaded phone lines. Charles, Johnny, Tom, Ryan, Gary, Cody, Valerie, and others taking your calls in the order that they are received, but this monitor is so little I can't read out the timers on it, how long they called in, so maybe you guys tell me who to go to first in the order received, because I guess Harrison's got better eyes than I, but a little bitty monitor, I can barely read where they're calling from and their first name. But we'll do that. We always take your calls in the order they're received. But I can, anyway, side issue. Let me talk about this briefly here before we go to your phone calls. We have a special surprise guest coming up in about an hour. I've always explained that without listener support, we're not going to be here. And in the last 3-4 years with deplatforming, it got really hard to raise money, and the harassment of our sponsors and things, running them off, where I've been like, hey, we're desperate. We need money now. And I used to be able to, behind the scenes, fund a lot of other journalists and groups and fly our crew everywhere and have reporters in other areas. We've cut way back, and we can't cut back anymore. And the whole way this place works is it takes so much money to pay for our own bandwidth, our own satellite, our own infrastructure, our own crew, that if you start imploding at a certain point, it's like fasting too long. It starts eating your organs, it starts eating your muscle. And so when I tell you thank you for supporting us over the years, and when I ask you for support now, guys, just go ahead and move it back over where it was, okay? Yeah, so I need to be able to, I really can't read it. Okay, now that's a little better, but this monitor is so old. Can we document cam people and show this monitor? Because, I mean, I know we've got other monitors. There's this weird thing with one of the engineers, and I love him to death. I've known him 16 years, to use the oldest equipment and keep it in place. Like there's a love of the equipment. I can't do the show. I got to go. Can't do it. I mean, because what happens when I give up? What about when this piece of equipment can't handle anymore? Because I can't read the damn thing. Sorry, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop and start over here for a minute. I did a good hour plus. It was good. And it was great. But I'll go to your calls. Special guest coming up. All right. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying. I start talking about how they're trying to shut us down. It also makes me mad because all that subconscious knowledge starts coming up here. But we need your support now. So if you want to keep InfoWars on the air, we have books, we have films, we have T-shirts, we have air filtration, water filtration, we have great supplements, we have shortwave radios, we have a lot of cool products at InfoWarsStore.com. And they're products that make your lives better. And people are like, well, what's going on? You said that you've got stocks of things because of supply chain breakdowns. You can't go more than 30, 40% off again. But then now you're offering stuff at 75% off that's below cost. Well, yeah, that's called an emergency. Everything that we ordered that I got too much of, or the T-shirts that I designed that I never promoted, that has stockpiled, books, films, great T-shirts, you name it, I've got to get that out of the warehouse, and I've got to sell it, in some cases, below what it even costs me, because if we don't get money in, we can't make the payroll and pay our bills. So I've gotten to that point where I am literally having to sit there and spend more than half my time jacking with bills and jacking with things and really trying to decide what to do and how to operate. And we're just getting precariously close to some big problems. And our underage is only a couple $100,000 a month. And that sounds like a lot to a person that's just a regular job. But imagine a media outlet. You hear about a newspaper in a small town costs 20, 30 million a year to run. Or you'll hear about a local TV station costs tens of millions to run. Imagine this infrastructure. It takes tens of millions just to pay for the infrastructure and the bandwidth and everything, because we have millions and millions of people tuning in every few hours, which is a great problem to have. It's just the vast majority don't buy anything. So it's those of you out there that actually care, those of you out there that actually understand that have been buying the product, that have educated the world and had these incredible effects. And I think about the amazing job everybody's done around here, and I just don't want to get InfoWars out of the fight. Even though part of me sometimes wants to be out of the fight. Part of me wants to, like, hey, I've done my job, you know, fair and square, they ran me to ground. Now it's time for others to take action. But we've had so many big effects, and so many times what we break first would not have broken and gone mainstream and had a huge effect if we weren't here. So if half the time we weren't the ones that push big stories out over the top, then I would not be here doing this. Love the crew, love them, they're great, but, you know, I'm killing myself doing this. We have a responsibility to stay in this fight at this critical point, and I'm not going to take losing as an answer. So I am dependent on you, and you're dependent on me, and I'm telling you, how many of you are watching that never went and bought a product at InfoWarsStore.com? I'm not guilting you. I'm saying, who wouldn't want to keep this ship afloat? Who wouldn't want to engage the globalists that are so desperate to shut us up? Who wouldn't want to get the products at InfoWarsStore.com? Yeah, look at those T-shirts. $7.95. $7.95 for T-shirts. By the time we pay for one, they're $5, $6, and then we ship it here from American manufacturer. It's at cost. They went and looked. Take that long sleeve shirt, high quality. That cost us $14. And with all the shipping in the background, $20. I mean, we are selling. Look at that great presidential emoji shirt that I designed. I think it's great. Never plugged it, so nobody ever bought it. $8.25. Look at that ball cap, made in Texas. I know those. $8.75. We paid more than that for that hat. All of it is being sold at cost right now because I have to have the money. And here's the deal. I'm not dumb. You know, I bought a nice big house with money 5 years ago that I knew the market would go up, and I figured it'd start going down by now. So I sold it, doubled the money on it, and putting it right into the company to keep us on air. I couldn't stand that big house. I didn't like the fancy pool. I didn't like the rich neighbors. Any of that. I got it as an investment. I did it as an investment. And it was absolutely fantastic that now I'm dumping that money in here, and all these Democratic Party groups and all these other people think they're going to like sue us and rig courts and get all this fat money. This isn't going to happen. But they've even admitted, we know you don't have money. We want to shut you down. Which again, ladies and gentlemen, is what this comes down to. So I'm going to stop bitching. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to play this clip, and I'm going to take your calls and be a good boy. I love the crew too. Sorry I was bitching about the monitor. It's just, can't read it. All I'm saying is, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you and I thank you for keeping us on air. And if you hadn't supported us over the years, it was always critical. And about four years ago, deplatforming it became really critical, where we would not have like, a 20, 30% more in the bank than we needed to operate for the month. That was the good old days. I didn't really worry about it, just trusted in God. Now we're like, sometimes like, we have a negative amount. You better go out and hustle money, Jones, or we don't even make payroll. That's where I've been. That's what I deal with every day here. And I'm not bitching. I'm just saying this is the time to go to InfoWarsStore.com. This is the time to get the products. This is the time to go to the Support InfoWars link that has a donation button where you can make straight donations. That really helps us. So I want to thank you all for all you've done. InfoWarsStore.com. We're doing our most important work ever here, but with all the deplatforming and all the attacks and all the Democratic Party lawsuits, it's so simple. You have a couple thousand of the hundreds of thousands of people watching right now and the million or so that will watch this special broadcast the next day. If just a few percentage of you went and bought a t-shirt or went and bought some of the great products at InfoWarsStore.com, we would continue on. If not, within a couple months, we're going to have major layoffs and problems, and then I'm not going to be able to pay for Band.video. We'll have to just say, okay, here's the Alex Jones show, and that's it. And we'll have to shut Band.video down. And I've told everybody that's members of it, I said, I don't know how long this will keep operating. But you can't have 7, 8 million viewers a day and no one's buying anything and then pay for that bandwidth hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. I mean, that's what this comes down to. And so, again, I'm not bitching. We just need people to understand that look around you. War, craziness, forced inoculations, lockdowns, world government, new world order being announced. We're here. We were born and made for this moment in time, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the time that we're supposed to be here, and our most important work is now. So I salute everybody watching. I thank you, and I appreciate you. And if you think it's important we stay on air, well then, work like you've never worked before to spread the word, to share the articles, to share the videos, whatever you think is most important we're doing, and to financially support this operation, because I will never give in, I will never sell out, I will never back down, but I sure as hell can give out. Like a lot of horses will get running and working until they have a heart attack or fall over and die. And I'm not going to stop. But it is enraging to me to actually know how bad the world's in trouble and to see what's going on and to have people not get how serious it is, especially all the idiots that serve the system and think they're part of a winning team as they destroy their own birthright and their own safety net. I mean, we are in an insane time, and it's going to get a lot worse. And going into supply chain breakdown, going into societal collapse, I would like to have a larger war chest of a reserve. But it's all God, and that's what it's up to. And maybe we're meant just to run right out to the end, and then there's the nuclear war, and we run off, and then that's the last day we're on air, and we all get nuked. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just telling you, Biden's in the news saying, we'll nuke Russia. I mean, we're living in a crazy town, people. And so all these idiots that want to shut us down just so they get in the newspaper when the newspaper means nothing. I mean, it's all just insane. All right, I'm ranting. I know that. I said I'd go to your calls. I'm killing that monitor at the end of the show. I'm taking a hammer to it. Nothing's going to stop me. That Samsung monitor is at least 15 years old. It's been in here. And poor Harrison suffers through that every day. No wonder when he's on the show, I watch it. He's like, I can't read that. I can't see that. What is that? Hell. I love these other studios, though. I actually like this studio more. I like this little homie studio. I'm kicking Harrison out of here, and I'm taking over this original studio. That's what's happening. I'm going to start hosting the show out of here, and I'm going to have a big, glistening new monitor for World War III. I want like a 5-foot wide one right there. Yeah, it's over here. I'm making a joke about this. Yeah, I just had stuff popping up in front of me. I'll show you what. Yeah, there's the calls. I can't see them. That's why I'm going back to this. It's okay. It's Tim Cook's gay. Runs death camps, but it's okay. Anyways, I'm going to play this clip, and I'm going to stop now. That's what these live broadcasts are like. There's no teleprompters here. And then I'm going to come back and go to your callers. Go to the calls, even though I can't read it. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. James Girardo, Chief of Neuroethics Studies Program and Scholar in Residence in the Center for Clinical Bioethics at Georgetown University, speaking to the cadets and faculty about the achievements in neuroscience and neurotechnology with impact on the future of war. And then when you hear about putting something in your body that takes over your body and create blood clots and kill you, all in just a tiny injection, they're talking about COVID-19 and the patented Moderna, Bill Gates spike protein 2016 that they've rolled out against us. Here it is.
We can even go further. One of the newest developments is that nanoparticulate matter can be stabilized for distribution. If you're not aware of what nanoparticulate matter is, it's that matter which exists on a scale of 1 × 10⁻⁹. Very, very small. Smaller than a cell. And we can manufacture materials that have discrete properties that can be controlled by virtue of bioengineering and their physical chemistry. To auto-aggregate, to be able to aggregate in particular areas based upon their biological and or chemical sensitivity. But now we go one step further. Most recently, just a few weeks ago, it was announced that you could then aerosolize nanomaterials. And go one step further, I can create small robotic units, controllable robotic units at the nanoscale, and that these too can be aerosolized to create a nanoswarm of biopenetrable materials that you cannot see, that can penetrate all but the most robust biochemical filters, that are able to integrate themselves through a variety of membranes, mucous membranes, and wherever, mouth, nose, ears, eyes, can be then uptaken into the vascular system to create clumping, can affect the vascular system of the brain, or can directly diffuse into the brain space, and these can be weaponized. And they can be done in such a level that their presence is almost impossible to detect, and as such, the attribution becomes exceedingly difficult to demonstrate. How much of this material would I need? Take a look. This is the front of my pen. This amount of nanomaterial, if be able to maintain and sustain with regard to its deliverability and aerosolization, could in fact affect all of you, or based upon where I come from, New York City, all yous. Look at this. Look at this. I'm carrying that material. Did you see it? Would I have to lug a giant weapon into the room? No, I wouldn't. And what if, in fact, I utilized some form of an unmanned aerial device or unmanned ground device as a delivery vehicle? Something like a drone or a bug. Could I do something with that?
Okay, so the decision has been made because we have godlike technology to go ahead and just kill everybody and only be safe for one entity to live on the planet. And that's the decision that's been made because of all this. And then you see them deploying whatever's horrible and evil, they deploy it first, try to then make sure nobody else deploys it. Because they're the good guys, you've got to fight evil with evil, fight fire with fire. All right, we're going to go to callers here in the orders they're received. In Ryan in Louisiana, then we're going to go to everybody else, like Johnny and Tom and Mark and Charles and Valerie and Cody and Gary, everybody else. I really appreciate you joining us here on this live Saturday broadcast outside of big tech, outside of their networks, our own independent people's transmitting system, thanks to the engineers and the great crew here at this operation, this ragtag group. So all the support goes to the listeners and the crew for keeping us here, and we're taking your phone calls right now. So, who's been holding the longest? That was Ryan in Louisiana. Ryan, go ahead. Welcome.
Hey. Hey, Alex. Can you hear me?
I sure can, Ryan. What's on your mind today?
Well, earlier I was listening in on you, and you had a video playing with Trudeau, and he was talking about pivoting. Well, pivoting is one of their slang terms, actually one of their main priorities that they like to use.
Yeah, it means they're launching a new phase of their attack.
Exactly, because pivoting is kind of like a seesaw. When you put pressure on one side, because it's like the gas prices going up, it causes people to feel suppressed, causes them to feel down because of it being too high for them to travel and so forth. And then when it goes down, it makes them feel elevated because they're able to do more and break free from the barriers that are restricting them. Well, another term that's similar to pivoting is wedging, because when you wedge instead of pivot, the family that Douglas Coe organized, well, he continued essentially. When they used the wedging, they used this in their documentary that they showed on Netflix, talk about wedging. It basically infiltrates the vessel. It's like ingesting material into a person through words and things transition through their screen like TikTok or film or anything of that nature.
Yeah, if somebody's unconscious, you can basically program them. And that's what this all is. It's behavioral psychologists trying to brainwash the public for power for big corporations. But it creates a feedback loop. It even makes them more mentally ill and basically destroys them.
Yeah, exactly. And I noticed when you were showing the nanoparticle stuff, I was listening to that, and that's also a part of it as well, because they have all these things occurring at once, and once a vessel has an awareness of these things happening, it causes another circuit within the system, like another pathway, and it's hard to detect what is actually their primary goal because they have so many secondary routes, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I hear you. I appreciate your call. It's a Hegelian dialectic of creating the crisis, offering the solution. And so their goal is dumbing people down, poisoning people, and bringing in world government and a world cashless society to then micromanage all our behavior and make us submit to very destructive activities. Depopulation is their goal. Death is their goal, Ryan. Thank you for the call. Let's go ahead and take another caller here. Let's go ahead and talk to Charles in Georgia. Charles, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. How you doing, man?
I'm here live on Saturday, despite the enemy's best plans. Last hour, we laid out their entire new battle plan where they said their world government's falling apart, and they've actually just gone into overdrive.
Yeah, awesome. For those of us that have been following you from the beginning, this stuff isn't that surprising. I mean, if there were a legitimate Pulitzer Prize award for the coverage on COVID, you should get it. I mean, on the rare occasion I turn on faux news, if they even start talking about COVID, I change the channel. And I'm like, what's the point? Anything you can tell me, I already heard from Alex a year and a half ago. So great job on that. I think you probably saved a lot of people.
Well, we're all in this together. It's you, the listeners, supporting that did it all, brother. Again, without you, we're nothing. But yeah, we had a lot of doctors on. We told people about hydroxychloroquine, about ivermectin, about zinc, and we saved a lot of lives. It's a very serious bioweapon virus, very, very serious. They tried to block treatments for people, and they're guilty of major Nuremberg Nazi-level crimes.
Well, the good news is I called in with good news with something that this is kind of big. I've been trying to get through to like Mike Lindell and other people on social media, and I can't get to them. So I'm like, you know what? I heard you say you're taking calls today. I just cleared my schedule.
Give us the big news, Charles. Give us the big news.
Well, you might remember I called you in February of 2021. That's the last time I talked to you. And I said that I had something that would be like a rear naked choke from Khabib Nurmagomedov. And then I suggested we use the recall election systems in 20 states to force the hand of these politicians to do something about the stolen election. Well, apparently nobody. You made a commercial out of it, sort of video that played on your channel for a while. Well, nobody did it.
I remember your call.
Yeah, it was disappointing that nobody took up the reins. It's like if you and Owen don't do it, it doesn't get done. So I've got something better today. There are these three amazing women that have a channel on YouTube, and you've got to see this video. It's the most amazing thing I've seen, and I'm a little embarrassed because I knew about this and forgot until they reminded me. The channel on YouTube is called Our Great Awakening, and the video is how one mom saved the entire school district. What they did was they were at one of these meetings about the masks, which don't work, never worked, and masking up the kids. They were at a school board meeting, and a guy walked in, and he walked up to the table where the school board officials were and said, listen, you get rid of this mask mandate, or I'm going to put a claim on your surety bond tomorrow. 10 minutes later, they lifted the mask mandate and skedaddled out of there.
All right, I haven't seen the video, but we're going to play it when we go to break here in a little while. Tell me the name of it again. It's Our Great Awakening. What's the YouTube channel so I can find it?
Our Great Awakening is the channel, and the video is how one mom saved our entire school district.
How one mom saved. One thing I hate to plug People ask why. A lot of times I'll play videos and don't give credit, or Twitter stuff. Because if I plug them and give them attention, the enemy goes and bans them. But it's a catch-22.
I was just going to say that. Everybody should download the video and save it, because they probably will get banned. But
yeah, because I want listeners to know, great activists out there, I am so into you. I want to promote you so much, but I almost feel guilty because, you know, if we really hype somebody, then it gets them in trouble. But that's just the way it is. God, think of the level of censorship. It's so sick. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's the video. It's these moms out there that are like taking the country back and the world back. And the great part is the enemy knows they're weak. And that's why they're so panicked right now. That's why they backed off COVID, at least in word, not in action, so that we'll go to sleep and think we won the war. No, we've won the battle. We've not won the war. We've got to continue to expose COVID as a bioweapon. And they're going to bring all their controls back very soon if we don't get on the offense now.
Well, that's why I called, because this is so powerful. People don't realize that every single one of these politicians, as an example, this Brnovich guy out there in Arizona, he's had the evidence for 7 months. He won't lift a finger.
No, it's very simple. The globalists threaten these politicians. Most of them actually don't even like what's happening. They're just scared, or they got blackmail. If you threaten to sue them or do sue them or come after them in legal and lawful ways, that's higher pressure than the globalists are putting on them. A lot of times they're just scared of the New York Times. The New York Times has no power, but they have power in their minds. They think it is. And so that's why a protest, a demonstration, a phone call, some rallies literally back them off. That's why we've got to do it.
But these surety bond claims are way bigger than that, Alex. If you go after their bond and put a claim, and the process is on there, their website is bondsforthewin.com. Bondsforthewin.com. They tell you how to do it. They teach you. You got to get these ladies on your channel. We got to get Mike Lindell to do this and Donald Trump to do it, and we can all do it. You don't even need an attorney. You just lay out the laws.
All right, well, listen. I'm gonna look at their video. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna tell you this. There's a lot of real stuff about going after people's bonds. There's a lot of real stuff about suing people, period, getting their attention. But a lot of this paper, stuff where it's magic and there's the Federal Reserve and they've got bonds on us and all that, it gets their attention when they get sued. That's what's getting their attention. But you need the suit to be extremely real, or you yourself can get in a lot of trouble. And so I'm not poo-pooing that. I'm just saying I'm not going to just randomly tell folks, go do this legally, go do this lawfully. But I will watch their video. I will look into what they're doing, and I will say that mothers and others going to city councils and saying no is beautiful, and absolutely, they have to have the liability of the bacterial pneumonia you can get. They've got to have the liability of the psychological damage to these children and say you're abusing these children, what you're doing is wrong. And then if you sue that school district, if you've got a child there, that definitely backs them off quickly. And you're right, if you put something on their bond as a public official, that scares them and they go away. I'm just saying this stuff is very serious for you if you violate their rights. So I'm just saying that the law and courts is violence by another means. And so I'm just saying that I have studied the law quite a bit and how all this stuff works. And it's hard for me to make cogent decisions on it. And so I just don't have guests on that just, I'm not saying the caller did this, but just, oh, there's this and there's magic and we did this. The women started suing them. That's what got them to go away. Is there a magic to these bonds and the rest of it? I've been on air 28 years. I've been politically involved for over 30 years, and I've heard a lot of talk about a lot of bonds and, this and that, and go after an officer's this, go after that. And what gets their attention is you're coming after them. Does that mean everybody on the internet that claims that they've got the secret silver bullet to go after the system is on target? They just ignore it or they change the regulations. And I'm not saying people that claim all this stuff's wrong. I haven't investigated this yet. What I'm saying is that they sue somebody or they file something and instantly they back off and you go, my God, this must be a real legal theory. No one's ever challenged them. No one's ever stood up to them. No one's ever said no to them. So yes, standing up even though you're not perfect and they're not perfect is real. I'm just saying there's no magic to it. Believe me, I've experienced the corruption in the legal system. Most of the time, it's just like a big meat grinder, but if they want to get you, they will. But they're already getting everybody, aren't they? They're already screwing the whole system. The system's coming down. All right, Charles, thanks for the call. All right, let's go ahead and take another call here. Let's talk to Johnny in Florida. I'm going to the order they're received. Johnny comes marching home again. You're on the air, Johnny. Welcome.
Pleasure to talk to my social studies teacher, brother.
Love you, brother. What's on your mind?
Honored. Well, to the last caller, I'm going to show you how it's really done. This morning I woke up. I didn't talk. I called Mike Lindell. I called this company. I woke up. I called Mar-a-Lago. I called Eric Trump. You're talking to Johnny X. I love you to death. One of the most powerful drummers in America. I got answers, and I got solutions. I got no excuses. I own a huge multi-million-dollar rig, custom 18-wheeler. Let's put Reset Wars on the side of it. It has a super stage up on top. I play all the InfoWars songs right now. I'm sure you've seen my videos. I
have, brother. Beautiful, Johnny.
Dude, ain't nobody touching me, kid. I got no excuses. Let's do this. I don't want to take up any more of your time.
No, you're not. Stay there, Johnny, because not about me, but I was talking to a journalist today who has been flying around the country doing reports. They've been wearing an Alex Jones was right shirt. They've gotten almost nothing but positive feedback. Again, that's just an example of how liberty is so popular. Johnny, tell us about where we find what you're doing.
Brother, it's on Facebook, even though, dude, they just banned me yesterday for saying Alex Jones. I made this video for you and your family for Christmas, and they banned me again for another 30 days. I don't care, dude. I'm all set, dude. I'm ready to take my rig, put Reset Wars on the side of it. I'll take the red Lamborghini Countach you saw with InfoWars on it. I'll put it on top. I'll go on top of my rig with a double bass drum set. I'll do every friggin' song from the show.
I love it. Do it, Johnny. What I love is how awake Florida is getting. Man, Florida is such an example of freedom. Why is Florida so alive? Why is Florida so awake?
DeSantis, bro. Imagine if he wasn't in. Imagine if that other idiot had gotten in, the nightmare we would have been in down here. All these idiots up there ruining it up there, and then they come down here to party, like, what's her name, with Let's Tax the Ricks dress. I wouldn't say their name. They're animals to me. You know what I mean? But
she's not wearing masks. She's partying there. Oh, but, you got to wear it if you're not AOC. Great points, Johnny. Love you. Appreciate your call. Let's go ahead and take more calls here. I got such a great audience tuning in. Sorry I blew up earlier about the monitor. That was just, it's real though, folks. I'm really emotional about all this. Let's go to Tom in Nashville. Beautiful state, beautiful city. Tom, I might move to Nashville. We might actually move InfoWars to Nashville. Everybody needs to get that message now. We're thinking about it, getting down here. I love Texas, but man, we got to evacuate at a certain point. Tom, what's your view?
I hear you. Technology City here, too, with Oracle and everything else. So, great call. A couple calls ago talking about the legal. Yep. I'm a lawyer and a junior league technologist. We've got a company here that's formed by veterans. We're working out solutions to using participatory technology. But what I realized in InfoWars is that you guys are using a network theory called Reed's Law, where you form a distributed network. You serve the people who have one common goal by delivering communications and coordination. And it turns into a very large, powerful network. So hats off. There's so much that can be done with that. And what I'm working on the side, not with my company, but on the side myself, is something I'm calling #Locust, because we need to turn around, look over our shoulder, and build local. And when we do that, we can find local solutions. Like a guy you had on yesterday, I think he's named Alex also, who's a farmer down in Florida, maybe. And
yes.
So he's all about food, helping the farmers and working with the food production and food selling and all of that. That's a local solution. I read something about...
You're talking about Alfie Oakes?
Well, Alfie's another one. Now, this is the guy, a young man who just called in, but Alfie Oakes is a great example of...
1 trillion %. Everything in the future is going to be about local, because the globalists are using their system to shut things down. And so, absolutely, everything is local. Everything. Survival is local. And I cannot stress that enough. I mean, this is sick.
We're forming a national advisory group. We're not starting another organization raising money, but if we have national advisors that each handle a particular segment. We have an advisory group on education, and so they'll help advise and give tips and help organize Moms for Liberty everywhere, because there's nothing worse than a mama bear that can mess with their kids. So education is one theme within the #Locust thing. Food, of course, is production and innovation, business innovation.
Absolutely. Globalism is about killing innovation, killing local control, creating monopolies while claiming the opposite. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Tom, in the beautiful city of Nashville. And look, I love Austin. People ask, why do I live here? Well, I'm from here. My mom's from here. My family's from here, since it was a Mexican colony. And it's L.A. And for business and for media, Nashville's the place. And if we can't afford to run this place here, and I love the crew, they all live here, I'm going to try to, Nashville, we're looking at Nashville, maybe some areas, Northeast Texas, small towns, they've got infrastructure, but we just can't continue to operate in Austin. I mean, the judges here, you could sue me for anything, though, it's all rigged. I mean, it's literally, this is where they arrested Rick Perry when the county attorney attacked police and was spitting on them and hitting them. And then she ran this Texas ethics committee that was given $25 million a year by the state legislature. And then he vetoed the bill because they wouldn't fire, and they indicted him. And he spent 2 years and $2 million fighting it. And then appeals court overturned his criminal conviction. They will indict a governor where I live for vetoing a bill under law. I love the infrastructure. I love our operation, but its days are numbered. I mean, I can't. People are like, why'd you build it there? Because, I've been here since I was 15 years old. I mean, my mother's from here. My ancestors frickin' had a war with Santa Ana for it. I mean, literally. So, I'm here, but I don't know what to do. We're looking at towns in North Texas. We're looking at Nashville. Because we just can't hold out here with these people. It's gone. Austin's gone. And again, I live in a jurisdiction where being an American, supporting freedom, supporting free speech is illegal. I live in the Soviet Union. I live in Nazi Germany. I live in Communist China. I live in North Korea. They cut the police funding by half, folks. Murder and crimes exploding everywhere. There's homeless camps everywhere. This city was clean, beautiful, and safe 5 years ago. It's gone. I live inside the New World Order rape chamber. I mean, it's just, and it's their plan. They know what they're doing, and they are just raping Texas. They almost turned it blue 2 years ago. They're fraud. Nobody holds them accountable, so they're gonna take over. So sad. I'm sorry. The death of Texas is very, very sad. But it's like California. Well, we're Texas. It'll never happen to us. Yeah. 50 years ago, California was more conservative than Texas. And now look at us. 40 years ago it was. Let's go to Ohio. Let's talk to Cody in Ohio. Cody, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. I just want to say one thing right now. More right now in my entire life, the Holy Spirit is invigorating me more than ever. I've never felt like this before. This has to be on every influencer's network. There's a solution to the dependency on government, corporations, and very tyrannical banks, basically keeping everybody in a trance right now, holding everybody back from even helping this the infrastructure of the show out. So I really want to...
because we're about to go interplanetary, interstellar. I mean, we're exploding right now. We're about to go next level, and they're so pissed.
Yeah, but the problem is right now, everyone thinks people are stupid. Everyone thinks there's so much idiots.
No, they're not. They're asleep. They're in a trance.
Yes. I want to help people. God wants to help these people, and he's really trying to. He's telling me to help people. So I want to share my solution, but
tell me the solution.
No, I really feel like it's bad because if I share it, it might prevent any change from happening because it's such a big solution. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds ridiculous, but this could help fund the operation tenfold, and that's why I want to talk off air about it and maybe have you.
Yeah, I can't do that. I hear you, and I appreciate your call, brother. I just, I can't. Actually paying for buildings, paying for electricity, doing all this stuff. Everybody always got a hypothetical. They always got a plan that's so good we can't release it right now. And, I just don't have time for those plans. And I'm sure they're great. Go out. Your plan's so good. It's going to be beautiful. We love you, brother. And we see your plan and think it's great. We're going to support it, all right? Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and take another call here. Let's talk to Gary in Illinois. Gary, thanks for calling.
Hey, Alan.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Hey, been listening to you since Waco days.
Wow, you've been listening 25 years.
Yes, sir. I used to live in San Antonio down there, and I lived through Waco and all that during that time period.
Well, good to have you here with us, brother. What's on your mind?
Hey, brother, I am an inventor, and I have been, like I said, listening to you for years, and I've been working on a space program since I was 16 years old, and I'm in my 50s. All right?
That's exciting. Tell me about it. My dad was tried to get involved in the space program, too, when he was 15.
Yeah, I've dedicated my life to it, so it's something I don't take lightly.
So tell me about your views on this.
On the space programs?
Well, just whatever you don't want to get into a nuclear war. Do you want to get into a nuclear war?
No, I don't see a nuclear war happening. It's shadal rattling, you know what I mean? You're, rattling your swords, type of thing.
No, I hear you. I guess you just told the person that took your call doesn't think nuclear war will occur, so I want your view on nuclear war.
View on nuclear war. Like I said, I don't see it happening on that.
I hope you're right. I mean, and I think you're right.
Yeah. My thing was, as far as the space program and whatnot goes, you have been talking on a spiritual level, right?
Yes, sir.
Of what's going on.
Yes.
All right. Like I said, I've dedicated my life to this. This is over 30 years of research on my end. As far as that goes, what we're fighting here is what you would consider a demon, and it's how they control us. It is all through frequencies and whatnot, and I respect you, so don't take what I'm saying, as an insult.
I don't. You're on the air. Go ahead, sir. Tell us.
All right. This is for everybody out there listening. So, this is what I know. The way this thing works is they control us through our nervous system, and they draw on a negative energy. So, as a large group of people get, like a city, and if you're depressed, you put out a negative energy, and that's the energy they draw on. Like I said, they control us through our nervous system, and that's you understand what I'm saying there, right, Alex?
Oh, I definitely agree with you. There's an evil force that likes pain and injustice and gets off on it. Yep.
Right. And like I said, it's through our nervous system. The human body is electrical, and we put out signals and we receive signals.
That's right. We're electrochemical transceivers.
That is right. And like I said, I've figured this out through my space program. I can, I understand zero gravity, free energy, and all that. So.
Well, brother, I appreciate your call. That's really interesting information, and I agree. This is a spiritual battle we're in. Gary, thank you so much for calling. Let's go ahead and take another call here. Let's take a call from Valerie in Canada. Valerie, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Yeah, I'm going to try and be really fast here. I ran for the Libertarian Party of Canada leadership because of you, actually. You called for politicians to stand up against the rolling violation of the Nuremberg Code that was the mask mandate, that was the jab.
Well, that's awesome. Tell us your name, and we'll pull it up, put it on screen, Valerie.
Valerie Keefe, K-E-E-F-E, like Carly O'Keefe or James O'Keefe.
All right,
but
Valerie Keith in Canada, Libertarian candidate. We'll pull that up. Go ahead.
Yeah. And yeah, what I wanted to say is there's a piece of the puzzle that you haven't had, but I understand why. The anti-human agenda, eugenicists have always wanted humans to be as fungible as possible. They don't like sexual diversity. That's why they manipulate sexual minorities. If you look at what the Nazis did in 1934, they burned the papers of the Hirschfeld Institute. They didn't just close it down. They didn't just say, but you can't provide transition medicine anymore. They burned the papers so people wouldn't know what works, what doesn't. And then if you look at the end of the Carter era, the early Reagan era, you have Gloria Steinem, CIA asset, and Janice Raymond, who's mentioned in the Podesta emails, and helped Stephen Harper, Bilderberg attendee, criminalize sex work. What they did was they cartelized insurers against the provision of transition medicine. So that what you had were trans people would, instead of getting a chemical their own body makes, like vitamin D3 that's in your winter sun, and it's great that winter sun has K2 because K2 is something we're really deficient in the West, causes a lot of heart attacks, causes a lot of osteoporosis that we don't get that. But they hold back the chemical that your own body makes that lowers depression. And they want to coerce those patients when they're in a state of real desperation into genital reconstruction, which is sterilizing medical procedure that actually is associated with increased risk of death. Does that not kind of sound like the beta test for the clot shot?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that the main thing is they're chemicalizing, manipulating, and you're right. In Brave New World, they talk about an asexual, non-sexual creature is what they want. They don't want us to be sexual at all, and that's why I see them trying to confuse things up front. I don't hate anybody that is just a proclivity one way or the other. The point is that they're definitely obsessed with our reproduction and obsessed with manipulating our lives.
I completely agree. I mean, you know, when you talk about the nightmare future of children having their sexuality policed and manipulated, I'm like, yeah, that kind of sounds like what I went through. Because remember that we were still teaching oversimplifications of human sexuality in Taylorist schools that were effectively run on the Rockefellers model going back to the progressive era in the turn of the last century.
Well, what do you make of how they're targeting autistic children and then telling them they're trans? That just looks like a way to sterilize people to me.
I think they're disproportionately targeting female-assigned people, and that goes back to Gloria Steinem, because you have to remember what the elite loved was they loved an ideology that said that there's no difference between men and women. There's no neurological difference. And if you look at what legacy feminists or cis feminists say, they say that it's literally just the social class that you're forced into that causes all of these differences, that there's nothing inherent in the way that we speak, in the way we think, in the way we feel, in the way we relate to one another.
And that's obviously
and,
preposterous to say that men and women are not different.
Yeah, they're definitely different, and it's just that what they want is they want an oversimplification. They don't want us to start understanding how mysterious humans are and how many different ways that we connect and how many different ways that we create and how, you know, loving a child. And
yeah, well, that's free will, but going in and telling children they're a different sex is the opposite of that. But I really appreciate your call. Interesting points. Thank you so much, Valerie, for calling. I'm going to go to Micah and Mark. We're going to go to break and bring our special guest on. But let me mention this since they just brought it up, or since she just brought this up. Why is it the same people who have been lecturing me for 2 years about the science can't tell me what a woman is? So we're not against people's free will or saying anybody's bad. We're saying it's an attack on women to say we don't know what a woman is because they're bringing us transhumanism where they want to get rid of humanity, period. Utah lawmakers override governor's veto, pass bill banning men from competing in women's sports. Yeah, especially men that still have their genitals in women's sports. That's preposterous. We're uncomfortable in our locker room. Leah Thomas, UPenn teammate, tells how the trans swimmer doesn't always cover up her male genitals. She doesn't cover up her male genitals when changing, and concerns go ignored by the coach. Seriously, watch this. You got to go see that video. And then you've got all of this. So, yeah, here's the deal. Telling 6-year-olds in Austin, Texas, the local elementary, it's in the news, that just lost my clip here. My video titles fell off. I guess I just lost that other one. So I just had the next videos we're about to play in my stack, and I thought they fell back, but they didn't. Yeah, we're going to air those next 2 reports you guys just gave me. And we're going to air those in the order that you just gave them to me. They're very, very important. Children aren't sexual the way the left says. And so boys like boys, girls like girls, girls like boys, boys like girls, because they like to have fun and play, and they're attracted to other children to have games and have fun and talk to them because they have open minds. It's not, oh, do you like boys or do you like girls sexually? A child doesn't know what that means when they're 6 years old. They go, oh, you like boys, well, you're gay. And now the state is creating a node, an attachment, a point to talk to you about that. And now the state is there guiding a child into its development, which is something that's even a very touchy point for parents. So you have this video of the local elementary school with them wearing their mask and They're all going around learning how to use, sex toys on themselves. It's pure pedophilia. It's pure testing the children, getting them ready, and it's mind control. It's MK Ultra openly being practiced in the public. And it's wrong. So those latest 2 reports you gave me that just disappeared out of my list, guys, not your fault, my fault, all these pages. People ask me why I have so many pages, and I was on talk radio by 1996, and the internet was very slow, and printing articles was very slow. So you might go to an article and wait a minute for it to load, and then to print would take another minute, and then you couldn't get to articles on air when you wanted to get there, so you would print everything you wanted so that you'd have it. And now, since they change stories all the time, I like to print them and have a copy, but then it creates the problem sometimes. Sorry, what'd you say? Yeah, and so then you get so many pages and so many documents and so many things, it becomes confusing. So it's kind of the snake eating its tail. But we're going to get to Hunter Biden's laptop is the key to the New World Order. And then we are ruled over by demons. 2 John Bound reports back to back. Then we're going to go to our special guest. And then we'll get to a few more calls as well today. Big broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And I want to thank the crew for coming in here and everything they're doing. Without this crew, we couldn't do any of it. And I'm not kissing their ass. They just put up with me, and they understand that this is the real deal. I mean, this is not a joke. This is not a game. This is a real defense of humanity. This is the real best knowledge we've got about the universe and about God. And it's a pretty heavy thing to know that we're the best there is. And that doesn't mean we're on a power trip. It's the opposite. I'm like, whoa, this is really, really scary. But we're the best there is. And that means you out there are the best there is. What you're doing here, I mean, you don't need me to tell you how important you are, right? You don't need me to tell you that we are literally, us together, you and I, the last ditch line of defense against this New World Order takeover that's happening. And I was talking to one of the crew members earlier. I was saying it's all going down. It's all happening. During the last break, I was going to go take a whiz, and I was like, man, it's getting crazy. My friend Mike looks at me and he goes, yeah, and next they're going to blame the people. And that's exactly what the process is of the globalists now that have been running it in the ground and doing all this and making us all fight with each other. And now they're like, hey, now we're going to blame you. You didn't do a good enough job for us. You didn't bow down. You didn't kiss our ass good enough. Now it's your fault all this is going to happen. No Klaus Schwab, no Bill Gates, no Barack Obama, no Tony Blair, all of you, Bono, all of you. You did this. You're bad. You're bad. And I'm not a bloodthirsty person. And I'm not going to physically attack these people and make them victims myself, but we're going to destroy you politically and culturally and spiritually. We're going to light your ass up with the truth. And we're going to get you off the backs of the children and the innocent people you starve to death and kill because you're pretending you're God. And you're going to know at the end of the day that you've been broken. My mission is to break you. And it's not some power trip or I'm the big swinging Johnson around here. I'm just letting you know something. I'm going to get you. In fact, I'm going to say this when we go to break. We've already hurt the New World Order really bad here, and they know it. Thanks to God. We're going to hurt them a lot worse. Understand that? The last thing we do, these people are going to pay for what they've done. Because as adults, that's our job to do this. Doesn't mean we're going to be perfect. Doesn't mean we got all the answers. Doesn't mean when Satan accuses us of, not being perfect. We're not saying we're perfect. But we choose God, and we stand against these people right here. We stand against Soros and Kissinger and Rockefeller and all of these people. We are against you. And we know you hate us. We know you're attacking us. We know you started the fight. But just get this. Every one of those men is going to burn in hell. David Rockefeller is already there. Henry Kissinger, George Soros, they are going to be separated from God for eternity, and they know it. And they're scared. And they think if they can claw enough of us with them, that somehow they're going to have their own little universe. And all they're going to have is being separated from God. We're going to go to break. Great job to the crew on the Saturday transmission. All the listeners are spreading the word. And we'll come right back on the other side.
These statements have not aged well.
The FBI is now investigating whether those alleged Hunter Biden emails are actually connected to a larger foreign intelligence operation.
They may be related to a foreign intelligence operation. Foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence operation.
For all we know, these emails are made up.
And finally, after a year, the New York Times has verified the left's worst nightmare. Yes, Hunter Biden's laptop is very real. As the New York Post reports, it's not until the 24th paragraph in the New York Times story that mentions emails involving Hunter Biden and his associates in those deals, followed by these two sentences. Those emails were obtained by the New York Times from a cache of files that appears to have come from a laptop abandoned by Mr. Biden in a Delaware repair shop. The email and others in the cache were authenticated by people familiar with them and with the investigation. It took the Gray Lady nearly 17 months to grudgingly concede even a fraction of what the New York Post readers learned in October of 2020, and what voters would have learned had it not been covered up by the complete control of the mainstream Mockingbird media.
The information found on the laptop may be part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Part of a Russian disinformation effort.
Described by many intelligence experts as having hallmarks, all the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation.
Russian disinformation
campaign.
This is a classic example of the right-wing media machine.
But is even odder than that is that Joe Biden made this bizarre declaration in the middle of skyrocketing inflation and crime and the possibility of World War III.
So we established a new civil rights cause of action for those whose intimate images were shared on the public screen. How many times have you heard, I'll bet everybody knows somebody somewhere along the line, that in an intimate relationship, what happened was the guy takes a revealing picture of his naked friend or whatever in a compromising position, and then literally, in a sense, blackmails or mortifies that person. Send it out, put it online.
Why would Biden do this? Because it is a greasy, slippery slope to Biden's involvement in massive pay-to-play corruption and quite possibly further impending, incriminating, compromising blackmail of crusty old Joe himself. Beyond Joe Biden's perverse leanings, how far does the Biden grift go into the depths of engineered global pandemics, or worse? The U.S. company Metabiota Incorporated was awarded $18.4 million in federal contracts under the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency program, run in Georgia and Ukraine for scientific and technical consulting services. Metabiota researches global field-based biological threat research, pathogen discovery, outbreak response, and clinical trials. Metabiota had been awarded $3.1 million for their work in the Sierra Leone, one of the countries at the epicenter of the Ebola outbreak. And according to the Gateway pundit, Hunter Biden's investment company, Rosemont Seneca Technology Partners, funded San Francisco-based Metabiota as early as 2014. Rosemont Seneca's website also showed Metabiota as one of the companies it has invested in. Metabiota then partnered with Black & Veatch, a company with ties to the Department of Defense, to set up labs in the Ukraine. The cover-up of Hunter Biden's laptop is far more than his twisted crackhead lifestyle. The emails on that laptop are crucial to stopping Joe Biden's lust for a new world order, no matter what the price. Biden titled these pleas to the Senate, flying in the face of American sovereignty, the threshold of the New World Order, the Wilsonian vision and American foreign policy in the 1990s and beyond. An excerpt from the first speech reads, "I shall urge that we revive the concept of a new world order, rescue the phrase from cynicism, and invest in it, a vision that should become the organizing principle of American foreign policy in the 1990s and into the next century. The moment is upon us to define a compelling concept of a new world order, to commit ourselves to it, and to lead the world in its realization."
And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. We've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it.
John Bound reporting. The elite's minions within the inept court system are bungling the best-laid plans of the perverse and crooked establishment. And so it goes amongst the New York elite, who are now in yet another panic after a list of alleged clients of the student prostitute in the Sarah Lawrence sex cult case was inadvertently published online.
We're back covering the shocking allegations against Lawrence Ray, a 60-year-old dad accused of starting a sex cult with his daughter's college classmates after getting out of prison. He's now facing claims that he subjected his alleged victims to sexual and psychological manipulation and physical abuse. But long before these sex cult accusations came to light, Lawrence was a well-connected world traveler whose friends included former New York City Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik, who joins us now.
And to give you an idea, Doc, of the spectrum of people that he was around, he called me up from an airplane one time, and he said, pick me up at JFK. I'm coming into JFK. I've got some friends. And as he got off the plane and he was walking toward my car, I'm looking out the window, and I said, wow, I said, this guy that he's walking with, he really looks like President Mikhail Gorbachev of the Soviet Union.
Gosh.
And he puts Mikhail Gorbachev in the backseat of my car. Another time, he picks up the phone of my car. He calls the Commandant of the United States Marine Corps, General James Jones. Another time, he invites me to a private dinner, and I walk in, and it's him, Governor Mario Cuomo, and Senator Robert Torricelli of New Jersey.
Just as quickly as the list was under seal, it was released. A mad attempt to undo the damage was ongoing, but unfortunately for them, the Daily Mail acquired a copy of the 121 names that only scraped the surface. According to the Daily Mail, the now released document is an exhibit admitted in the federal case against 62-year-old Larry Ray, who is charged with operating a sex cult out of his daughter's dorm room at Sarah Lawrence College.
After years of allegations about unspeakable abuse against young people he met as college students, 60-year-old Lawrence Ray was arrested at this New Jersey home on Tuesday.
One of his daughter's roommates and one of the female victims in the indictment were in the residence at the time.
According to the indictment, Ray held so-called therapy sessions in his daughter's dorm, alienating several of the victims from their parents after earning their trust. The document says he controlled them by using verbal and physical abuse, which escalated after he and some of the victims later moved to New York City. The indictment also charges Ray with depriving his victims of food and sleep and taking explicit pictures of some of them. Prosecutors say he accused them of lying and stealing, and in response, they say he asked for money, eventually extorting nearly $1 million.
Ray directed his victims to obtain money for him by other means, by draining their parents' savings, and worse, forced labor and prostitution.
Ray is also accused of demanding taped confessions from his victims for supposed crimes they committed.
Are you making this by your own free will?
Yes. In this video uploaded in 2017, an apparently disoriented young woman says she tried to poison Ray, an unsubstantiated allegation.
Did you in fact poison me?
Yes.
Among the Johns on the list are a top executive at the Gap clothing firm and her husband. They were one of two married couples that were included. A former New York State Supreme Court judge is also named. Another alleged client is a painter who has studios in Manhattan's East Village and in Italy. A third, an architect famous for designing colleges and university buildings. An investment executive who was also a pedophile in Jeffrey Epstein's infamous Little Black Book of Contacts. Other names include a hedge fund manager who has his name on a museum on a building in New York, a Washington, D.C. lobbyist, and an international diamond dealer. Also included is an executive at the Metropolitan Transit Authority, an account executive at Amazon, and a veteran travel writer. Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Keith Raniere, Allison Mack, Peter Nygaard, and now Larry Ray. They will all merely be replaced to supply the debauched elite with the flesh for their fantasy lifestyle. Meanwhile, they continue to pervert our own children with their demonic policies. John Bound reporting.
of Dawes Elementary in Austin ISD School. We have just been ticketed for being on the property and told not to come back for an entire year or we will be arrested. All of this for wanting viewers to know what they're indoctrinating the children with here at Dawes Elementary. Now, Dawes Elementary's been mighty proud of what they have going on this week. Their Pride Week. They have had videos and pictures of the students celebrating a whole week dedicated to teaching children as young as 4 about gender ideology and, acceptance. But, they need to know about binary, non-binary. You can be a boy, girl, or creature, anything when it comes to Pride Week here at Dawes Elementary. Now, they did get some backlash for this, especially because documents obtained show that the teacher's instructions were to tell the kids what is said in this classroom stays in this classroom. And remember that what is shared in the Pride Circle is confidential. Well, obviously, some parents had issue with this and brought the attention of the matter, and because of that, they did update the documents to say, teachers, make sure that you remind the children that they're allowed to share this information with the parents. How good of them, right? To be allowed to share with the parents. But if you want to see the whole report, what went down when the officers showed up, 5 cop cars to show up with us talking about this issue with confronting the assistant principal, make sure you click the link in the description. But for now, I am reporting live outside, far away, just for your information, Austin ISD, far away from the school, Dawes Elementary, here in Austin.
The first nation to successfully weaponize and mass produce deadly pathogens was Great Britain during the start of World War II, soon followed by the United States, Germany, France, and Japan. While many nations mass produced them, Japan was notorious for deploying biological weapons, killing almost 500,000 Chinese soldiers and civilians in several military campaigns, including the 1940 bombing of Ningbo, China, when Japan's secret bioweapons unit 731 dropped ceramic bombs full of living fleas carrying the bubonic plague. German pharmaceutical company IG Farben Bayer conducted fatal human experiments on prisoners and killed over 1 million people with its cyanide-based Zyklon B. The U.S. established their own bioweapons program at Fort Detrick, Maryland in 1942, and by the end of the war, brand new facilities were completed for mass production of anthrax and other bioweapons. After the war, the directors of IG Farben were punished at the Nuremberg trials, but the scientists were secretly absorbed into America's bioweapons program. Japan was planning to attack the city of San Diego, California, with weaponized plague, but they surrendered 3 weeks prior to the scheduled attack. And while Japanese researchers arrested by Soviet forces were tried for war crimes, those captured by the United States were secretly given immunity in exchange for working with the U.S. bioweapons team. Long after World War II, the U.S. bioweapons program continued to expand with the help of Japanese and German war criminals. And in 1969, the U.S. government officially terminated their offensive biological weapons program, continuing on with a defensive biological weapons program, which was nothing more than a change of language ahead of the Biological Weapons Convention in 1972. The U.S. would continue to experiment with and produce deadly pathogens, but now under the guise of defense, and mostly defense against Russia. Of all the nations involved in bioweapons research, Russia factors in very little. The U.S. government claims that the Soviet Union had the biggest bioweapons program in history, but this is based solely on a mysterious 1979 anthrax leak and the lone testimony of Soviet defector Ken Alibek, who has also been absorbed into the U.S. bioweapons program, and who has helped the U.S. surround Russia with dangerous bioweapons labs. Russia is now releasing confiscated documents of the work that was being conducted in the NATO-backed biolabs they have secured in Ukraine. These labs were allegedly developing genetically engineered bioweapons to target specific Slavic people and experimenting with ways of spreading pathogens via bats, ticks, lice, and fleas, like the work Japan's Unit 731 was doing before being secretly brought into the U.S. Meanwhile, Bill Gates is currently allowed to release hundreds of millions of genetically modified mosquitoes within the United States as some sort of disease control experiment. You can say what you want about Vladimir Putin and Russia, but they aren't the ones waging war against the people of the West. That would be the World Economic Forum, the big banks, and their lackeys of the Great Reset agenda. After the U.S. government sanctioned all the Russian people, Putin responded by only targeting a few known criminals of the Great Reset cabal, as if sending a message to the Americans that we share the same enemies. Whereas the global elites are working towards destroying the nation-states, Russia is reinventing the nation-state. Russia hopes to be the world's biggest producer of organic farming, while the globalists are pushing for genetically modified foods, bugs, and synthetic meat. The globalists are actively destroying the family down to the mother's womb, while Russia seeks to build a society based on family and Christian values. The Russian government provides fallout shelters for the civilian population to potentially survive a nuclear war. And the U.S. government has absolutely nothing for the people. We are on our own. But FEMA reminds us to remain socially distanced, while our government robs us blind and starts a nuclear war. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
It's called the Great Reset, tough guy. It's called the New World Order. It's called the big banks wanting to squeeze the economy and make people poor so they can loan us fiat money to take control of our lives with a social credit score and the universal basic income. That's everything. That's the whole future of our lives. The whole world's going to be about surveillance and control and them manipulating and tracking everything you do. It's all being officially announced. I've got articles everywhere, their press releases saying it. And then the crew asked me during the break, they go, are you all right? You really seem upset. Are you feeling okay? Well, then, about to have nuclear war. I mean, they're going to starve a couple 100 million people to death. Yeah, I'm pretty freaked out. Yeah, but this is real. This is not a freaking game to me, man. Like, you understand, like, I like living, right? Like, I like my children not dying. People are already starving to death by the hundreds of millions right now. Well, you never see it on the news. They're dying right now. They're in their freaking houses starving to death, begging for God to help them, and no one's coming because God tells us to get up and take action, and then we don't do anything. And that paralyzes God. Yeah, God can do it, but God needs us to do it because God's not free will.
Once again, not for the first time, what had seemed like a nutty conspiracy theory turned out to be true.
Yeah, I'm upset. I'm really, I told you last night, I said, what's wrong with you? Really freaked out. I'm like, yeah, I'm really freaked out. I'm really freaked out. I'm really freaked out. You see, because this is real. The supply chain being cut off, the energy grid being cut off is real. And we're going into a time now where we're not going to be on the air. I mean, if we don't back this off, if we don't get sane people to stop the globalists, I mean, we won't be here in 6 months. You won't be here in 6 months.
Who is the most banned news network in the world?
Infowars.com.
Infowars comes to mind.
Infowars.com.
Infowars.
You watch Infowars?
Infowars. It's a radio show hosted by Alex Jones. Alex Jones, nice guy.
You must be a threat if they call you out by name.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Alex Jones. Alex Jones. Alex Jones. Alex Jones is the greatest.
He knows who Infowars is. I'm playing this joke over here. That's why the deplatforming didn't work.
Alex has been right on for over a decade.
You need to listen to Alex Jones.